So, because we've got to start Lirio on Friday. So, we pick up in chapter 24. We are at the, I don't remember what they call it, the government headquarters. And Bartimaeus is trying to fast talk himself out of a confrontation with both Faquarel and Nuda, however you pronounce his name. Okay? And Bartimaeus notices, bottom of page 337, over at the corner, he notices Nathaniel and Kitty Jones, and is kind of surprised by that. And then he engages in conversation with Nuda, and his human host. So on 340, because Faquarel is telling, and I'm just going to go with Nuda from here on out, because Faquarel is telling Nuda, we can't really trust Bartimaeus. You ought to just do him in. Bartimaeus, says to him, "It is an honor to meet a spirit of such strength and renown. I am but a wisp upon the wind. Nevertheless, my power is yours." In other words, he sucks up to him. Why? Well, his footnote tells us why. This being is of such strength, a mere glance from him would, destroy Bartimaeus. Next couple of pages, Faquarel tells Nuda that Bartimaeus doesn't really approve of their plan, and Bartimaeus he doesn't really interrupt, but he says, bottom of 341, "I don't really know what your scheme, your plan is. Maybe I could accept it if I knew what you were really aiming for." Okay? So, on 342 and following, Nuda kind of explains, we're going to get back at the wizards, or at the magicians. He says, for centuries we've suffered pain at human hands. This is page 342. Now we're going to impose pain on them. Okay, cool. He understands that. Okay? So Bartimaeus on 343 then asks kind of what he considers, I think, to be the all-important question. Once you're done getting your revenge, that is, once you've inflicted maximum pain, how are you going to get back? Get back where? The other place. How are you going to go home, so to speak? Nuda, back. Faquarel, what do you mean back? To the other place. That's not part of the plan. This world is big. It's varied. It's ours now. We don't plan on going back to the other place. They're going to ultimately do what with Earth? It's going to be theirs. Okay? There's roughly 7 billion people. It'll take them a little while, but they're going to eat. Our hatred has grown so long, it cannot be healed even in the other place. Notice that. Even if we go back to the other place and we're never summoned forth, he says, our hatred will never be healed. By healed, I think he means satisfied. I don't think he means done away with. Okay? Think of your own experiences. For you too, it must be so. Okay? And there's an outcry, there's a noise. Faquarel says it's Bartimaeus' master. Okay? And sure enough, here's Kitty and Nathaniel over in the corner, apprehended by Jenkins, or the body of Jenkins. Okay? And 344, right in the middle, Nathaniel tells Bartimaeus, I'm still your master. I order you to help us. Faquarel and Nuda laugh. They say, you can't do that now. But he can, right? Because Bartimaeus has been summoned. So I order you. Bartimaeus tries to talk to the being in Jenkins, okay, whom he recognizes, whom he knows, and tries to kind of reason with her, him, it, whatever. Okay? Again, Nathaniel issues a command. I order you to, and his head drops. Okay? So, Bartimaeus 3:45, speaking to Nauta and Faquarl, says, my thanks to you both. The offer is courteous and kind. I fear I must decline. I've had enough of this world and everything in it. My essence hurts me. My only wish is to return to the peace of the other place as fast as I can. I just want to get out of here. Why? Because taking on a physical form here, okay, hurts him. Now, what has Faquarl said about the body that he inhabits? The pain's gone. Okay? So they're trying to get Bartimaeus to realize, yeah, but if you take a human body, that is, not assume one, not create one, but actually inhabit one, all that pain will be gone. Okay? He just wants to go back. We don't yet know what the other place is like, right? Other than what we've heard. We don't experience it yet. We're going to shortly because we're going to go with Kitty into the other place. Okay? So, Faquarl says you should just destroy him. Nauta kind of says, back off. I already said we're not going to do that. So he says, no, I'm going to grant his wishes. He says, whatever your request is, if it lies within my power, speak on. Spare the lives of these two. Okay? Don't kill John Mandrake and Kitty Jones. Don't eat them. You say the world is big? There are others to devour? Spare these. And that doesn't quite sit well. I have given my word, Jenny. I cannot break it, but this is ill done. I need some ballast in my belly. I was looking forward to these two, particularly the girl. Yeah, and there's some weird, stuff going on there. The boy looks sour and sinewy. I believe his flesh would taste like candle wax, but she is edible beyond doubt. And you would have me spare them? You are perverse. Why does he say Bartimaeus is perverse? Louder?
It's abnormal.
Why?
Because he's having some kind of emotion towards those two. He wants them spared.
There's some emotion. There's some affection there. And that's not right. Okay? But notice, Nauta says, I gave my word and I cannot break it. Well, that's kind of interesting because giving one's word seems to be a human construct, so to speak. Okay? So, Nauta goes on, to have a bond with a human, you are corruption, a traitor. But I can't break my word. Okay? It's kind of interesting because he seems to be suggesting my word is what? It's an appeal to some kind of morality. And notice what that's saying, that this morality or this moral standard, whatever it is, it's even greater than Nauta. It's almost like he's saying, if I break this, I will poof. I will be destroyed. Okay? I'll be going against something even more powerful than I am. But to have a bond with the human, what kind of bond? Bill already mentioned it. It's an emotional one. It's a bond of affection. And yet, what are the spirits doing? By inhabiting, Faquarl inhabiting Hopkins. Is there no greater bond than that? They are binding themselves, their essences, to the physical essence of the humans. He says the kind of bond you have, that's perverse. That's wrong. But the kind of bond we have, I don't know. It's different somehow. So he tells Bartimaeus, leave. What has Bartimaeus just done, by the way?
He saved them both.
He saved them both. Because now to promise their protection, they're now under his protection. So no other little spirit, smaller spirit, can devour them. Okay? So, Bartimaeus replies, we do have a bond of sorts, but for the present there are limits to it. What are the limits?
He's still underneath them.
How so? He's still bound to them. Okay? How else? I mean, that's entirely right. What did Kitty and Bartimaeus talk about the last time they saw each other? One word. Trust. Does trust, if you really trust someone, does trust have any limits? You've heard of the phrase, I trust that person with my life. That means limitless, right? That trust has no limits. Bartimaeus is saying the relationship we have now, the bond we have now, it has limits. Why? What did John say just prior? I am still your master. I order you. I command you. There's no trust there. Well, seemingly there's no trust there. Okay? Which is why I take my leave. And Bartimaeus does what? He looks at John and he says, dismiss me. It took him several seconds to respond, and only then when Kitty nudged him sharply. When he spoke, he stumbled 3 times and had to begin again. His voice never rose above a whisper. He did not look in my direction. Again, this is Bartimaeus speaking. Mandrake did not look, Nathaniel did not look in my direction. By contrast, as I rose, flickered, faded, vanished, Kitty never took her eyes off me. And I think the fact that Bartimaeus knows exactly where Kitty's eyes are, what's that tell us?
He was watching her.
It tells us where his eyes are. Okay? There are limits to our bond, which is why I take my leave. And he's looking at her. What is he not verbally telling her, but telling her with his eyes? You know where I'm going. You know what the limits are. Break the limits. How so? You know what Ptolemy did. Follow Ptolemy's lead. Okay? My last sight was of them cowering together, 2 hunched, fragile forms. What did I feel? Nothing. I'd done what I could. Now his word was his bond. He would spare their lives. Beyond that, it wasn't my business what happened to them. I was getting out, about time too. I was lucky to escape with my life. Yes, I'd done what I could. Okay, now he said that twice. I didn't need to think about it anymore. I was free. By saying I didn't need to think about it anymore, what's he really saying? And yet I did. I'm done. I'm out of here. But he can't mentally kind of let it go. Free. Look, even at full strength, I'd still have been a speck of insignificance compared to Nauda. What else could I have done? By giving us that very last sentence, what is Bartimaeus telling us? Couple things. One, he's kind of creating a conversation, right? And by saying, what else could I have done? It's like I, the reader, said, come on, Bartimaeus, you're a djinn. You could do something. What else could I have done? He says, I'm a speck compared to Nauda. But by saying that question, what's he also telling us? He knows his limits. What else?
There might be something he could do.
I'd like to do something. He cares. I'd like to do something. I would, but I'm nothing. Okay? So, Next chapter, Kitty. Kitty and John get taken to a room, okay, and they're locked in there. Page 350. She mentions something about, Quentin Makepeace being his friend. Top of the page, John says, he wasn't my friend. Well, yeah, he was. Nauta may have promised not to kill you, but that doesn't mean one of the others won't. See, John thinks that Nauta's comment doesn't apply to the others. I think it does. Anyways, I'm surprised they haven't spotted that. It's the kind of ambiguity they normally pounce on. Why does he think that? Because he thinks all demons, Ginny are what? Demons. Bad. Okay? Pardon?
Reason you're correct, you said demons and Ginny. Or they're probably
To use John's term, demons. Bartimaeus' term, Ginny. Okay? So, she smacks him. Smacks him hard. What was that for? For everything. For abducting me, getting me into this mess, for being a member of this stupid government, for the war, for being a magician, for enslaving demons, spurring them to invade our world, for being a complete and utter idiot. And for what you just said, for being defeatist. Things look pretty bad, right? And she calls him a defeatist. I think John would say, no, I'm a realist. Okay? He says, all right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I've done to you, for what I did here and now. I should have left you alone. I regret I've got you into this, but what's the point of saying it? It's all irrelevant. His point is, we're going to die. You're wrong. Your apology isn't irrelevant. Okay? Because John just said, it's all irrelevant. Okay? Why does she say your apology isn't irrelevant? Irrelevant means what? It doesn't matter. Oh, it does matter. For her, it does matter. And you're a fool if you can't see it. I'm grateful that you stopped Makepeace from having me killed. Now stop being such a wet blanket and think of something to do. He's like, all my slaves are dead except Bartimaeus. He left us. Notice, he left us. He saved our lives. Yes, and I don't think he did it for me. Wait. He says, I do have this. And he pulls out his scrying glass, okay? So, he has the imp and the spying glass do some things, okay? And he talks about Gladstone's staff, says if we get it, it'd be a match for Nauta, etc., okay? And then she asks him, 353, do you know about Ptolemaeus? He's like, yeah. You know about the Apocrypha? Yeah, it's on my shelf. You know about Ptolemy's Gate? Yeah, it's a question for scholars in which, how do you know? I can't read ancient Greek. If I could, I'd have found out for myself. You, I assume, with all your privileges, can and have. What's the gate? How does one get to the other place? Stop asking questions. We don't have time. Is it fair to say stop asking questions? No, not really. So, he tells her what Ptolemy's Gate is, and he says, is that enough for you? And sorry, that's a question. She says, no, it's not. What's the exact formula? That is, how do I do it? Have you gone mad? Tell me. Why? Because she knows exactly what Bartimaeus meant. And she's going to do it. Okay? So, he tells her. So what's going to happen? She's going to do the Ptolemy's Gate. He's going to go for the staff. So, 357. Ptolemy used the gate to reach out to the jinn. It was a gesture of reconciliation, of good faith. We need to do this. She tells him this. We need to do this and fast to pray to get some help. He says, Kitty, no, come on. There are enemies. They have been. True, their powers are useful. They are wicked things. They will hurt us if they can. She says, some are invading, not all. Bartimaeus did not agree. So? He's nothing. Nothing. He has loyalty to us, certainly to me, maybe even you. His loyalty changes with every summoning. And then she finally tells him, I summoned him. He says, what? I summoned him. Yeah, me, commoner. I did it. Look around you. Everything's turning upside down. Magicians have destroyed the government. Demons are willingly being summoned by their own kind. Commoners are taking control of the streets. The old certainties are falling apart. That is, the old truths that we hold self-evident, so to speak. And only those who adapt are going to prevail. I intend to. What about you? She points through the door. Any moment now, Farquharl's going to come back in. Do you want to keep quibbling until then? Yes, I learned a little of your art. I summoned Bartimaeus. I wanted an alliance. He's skeptical. Okay? There's only one person that he trusted, Ptolemy. Not, yes, it was. He used the gate. He made the gesture. Why do you think Bartimaeus still wears his form? And just that question should make John think, and why does he also wear her form? You hadn't realized. Notice, you never put two and two together. When I summoned him, he told me that Ptolemy would have done anything for Ptolemy because of the gesture he made. There was no limit to our bond. Well, Bartimaeus just said before he left, there is a limit to our bond. And you heard what he said. No, I didn't. He said he had a bond with us too, but there were limits. And he was looking at me. If I can follow him, I know I need to call his name, but if I can follow him, maybe he'll come back. Okay? So he tells her what she needs to do. And he says, this is impossible. Top of 360. If he agreed to somehow help you, he's just a genie. His power is negligible compared to Nauda's. Your idea is noble, but the chances of success are absolutely minute. She says, that's all right. Your plan, the staff, what are those chances of success? And he says, yeah, about the same. And we probably won't get away from Nauda in the first place. But if we do, we both do what we can. He says, okay. If you do try, I wish you luck. Notice, if you do try, he doesn't think she's going to. He thinks he's going to go off. He's going to try and get the staff. He might get it. Maybe there's a 1 in a million chance. Maybe he gets that 1 in a million chance, and he comes back, she's still there. Because she'll be too afraid to go do it. Okay? Good luck to you, Mr. Mandrake. You don't need to call me that. It's your name. No, my name is Nathaniel. And what's he just done? His reversion, so to speak, to his childhood self, full of notions of nobility, honor, responsibility, morality, it's back. Because what has he just done? He's given her power over him by giving her his birth name. Okay? And then the mercenary shows up. Okay? So, we're going to skip a bunch. We're told, page 363 at the top, Kitty's conversation lights a fire in him. He is now charged with, a purpose. He has something he must do. Okay? So he gets away from the mercenary. 366, 367, what do we see of his old master? Jessica Whitwell. She dies how? Honorably. She goes down fighting. She doesn't take a demon into herself. She conjures up some serious magic. Okay? Farquhar says, bottom of 366, I assume like all the other wretches, you prefer life to death. In other words, you're afraid to die. There's nothing worth dying for. And she says, you assume wrongly in, attacks and such. Okay? So, Kitty shuts the door. She concentrates. She does what she needs to do. Okay? And she thinks, am I going to die? Well, Ptolemy returned alive. Page 375. She hears the distant sound coming to her ears. Let's see here. She kind of leaves her body. Page 376, towards the bottom. Dimly she glimpses 4 barriers. She feels a rushing. She glimpses 4 barriers all around her, towering above her, plummeting below, stretching to infinity. One is dark and solid, threatens to crush her with remorseless weight. What is that? Earth. The next was a raging fluid which surged avidly to carry her away. That's water. The third barrier tore at her with the unseen tumult of a hurricane. It's air. And the fourth was an implacable wall of unquenchable fire. That's fire. Those are the four elements, not 5 elements. 4 elements. What has she just done?
She's left Earth.
She's left her body. She's left the material realm. So, if we had those 2 circles with different colors here, this is the realm of matter. This is the realm of spirit. She's left. Okay? So her body is now down on the floor, and she is having what's called an ecstasy, an out-of-body experience. Okay? So, scale, we're told, page 377, scale, direction are impossible. Why? Why is there no scale? Meaning, like a ruler, or something that you can look to something, compare to something else to get an image of size. Because size is a quality of matter. Right? The pen to the bottle. The marker to the bottle. The marker is smaller. The bottle to the monitor. The bottle is smaller. Monitor to the wall. The wall is larger. The wall to the building. You take all physicality out, and you don't have any frame of reference, so to speak. Okay? She had no fixed point, no singularity to call her own. She seemed to be in several places at once. The effect was most disorientating. Well, of course it was. Disorientating. That's a peculiarly British term, by the way. We would say, in America, disorienting. They always throw in that, okay? Why? Because what do you do when you orient yourself? You metaphorically, to use the phrase, you get your bearings. But even the phrase, the term, orient, to orient yourself. If we use that literally, hold on a second, it would mean facing that direction. Why? That's due east. Orient is east. Okay? How do we know? If someone is quote unquote oriental, it's a term not used very often today, what does that mean? They're from Asia. That's the farthest east, metaphorically speaking, you can go. Okay? So if something is disorientating, what does it do? It wrecks up your compass. Well, over here, there is no compass. Why? No north, south, east, west. Because those are all points in space that have some kind of material measure. You go out in space, outside the solar system. There's no north, south, east, west. Because what determines those? Here. Gravity. What else? It's actually more than gravity. It's magnetism. Magnetic north isn't actually at the North Pole anymore. Magnetic north is off the coast of Newfoundland, between Newfoundland and Greenland. You're saying that, sometime in a few years, it's going to be over part of Russia. And more than likely, what's going to happen, possibly in our lifetimes, is magnetic north and south are going to totally flip. So that what's now called the South Pole, magnetically speaking, it won't be. This has happened repeatedly over the millennia. Okay? So, she glimpses all this. She has this feeling. Okay? And she's thinking to herself, I need a body. Why? She needs something to focus on. Okay? So, she sees a little blob. She sets to work making herself a body. Okay? So she starts to make herself a body. And once she gets this sphere-like thing, she starts to remember why she's there. Bartimaeus, page 383. Top of 382. Bartimaeus, where are you? And we see what she sees. She sees faces. She sees figures coming at her and going past her. Kitty, come back to us. Her parents, her mom and dad. Go away. Kitty, we love you. Get lost. She drives these things away. Kitty, help, it's coming. There's Mr. Pennyfeather. Bartimaeus, she calls again. Page 383. You always did try to be too independent. Jacob Hirneck coming. It's best not to go back to Earth. You won't like it if you do. Why? Poor child, you'll see. You are not as you were. Why do you come here and molest us? A woman comes in saying. A woman with a white headdress gathering water at a well. I could be wrong here, but I think that's a biblical image. I think that's the image of the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well. Because she's gathering water at a well, and a tall man with dark skin standing on a grassy hillside is there too. His face was grave. She says, I come for help. You're not going to get it. Give up, magician. I'm not a magician. True, you are nothing now. She starts to fade. Hello, Kitty. Get lost. And there I was, thinking you were asking after me. Because when she hears Hello, Kitty, what does she not see? Why? Because he can't be seen. Everything she's seen thus far has been what? Images from here. Images from her past. Okay? So, we leave Kitty, we go on to Nathaniel. And Nathaniel, we're going to skip some. Page 391, he gets to the vault. He gets hurt in the shoulder because the mercenary throws a silver disc at him. And he gets the staff. What else does he get? Smart boy, grabs the amulet first, puts that on. Now anybody attacks him, he's fine. And then he gets the staff. Mercenary gets killed. Chapter 30. 20 minutes. I'm trying to finish this up.
It's the boots, too.
He gets the 7-league boots, too. Kitty, you took your time. He says, no, I've been floating here forever. Why? Because there is no time here. It's eternity. It's infinity. Okay? They've been all around me telling me to go, that I was nothing, she says. She says, I've been floating here forever. He says, no, you've only been here a few seconds. Earth time, that is. But once you get here, a few seconds. One of the very, very famous, sayings in the Old and New Testaments, the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, the Christian, addition to it, the New Testament. The day of the Lord is what? Like 1,000 years. And 1,000 years is as a day. What does that mean? It doesn't mean literally a day is like 1,000 years. So go back to the beginning of Genesis, and on the first day, oh, that's 1,000 years. And the second day, it's metaphorical. It means, compared to God, time for us doesn't make sense. Why? Because God's outside time. Well, where are they now? They're outside time. This is eternity, so to speak. Okay? So, she says, it wasn't so difficult. I suppose it was because you helped me through. It's harder than you know. You're the first since Ptolemy to succeed. It requires the ability to separate from yourself, which is an impossibility for magicians being what they are. What does that mean? To separate from yourself. He comments on magicians. They can't separate from themselves, he says, being what they are. What are all the magicians we've seen? What psychological trait do they all show? Paranoia. Okay. It gets close to it. Paranoia is always about what? Me. If I'm paranoid, what does that say?
That you're scared of something. You physically are, yeah.
The people out there are what? Out to get me. It's all about me. The psychological trait all the magicians exhibit is egotism. They're ultimately all narcissists, right? Because what do they want? Power. For somebody else? If I'm a magician and Jamar is a magician, do I want power for him? Hell no. I want it for me. Why? So I can step on his back as I climb the rungs of power. Okay? They can't separate from themselves. So, what's he mean by separate from themselves? Yeah, they're too arrogant. You have to do what to separate from yourself? You have to deny yourself. You have to say, I am not important. Well, what did Kitty have to do in order to make this gesture?
She pretty much killed herself. Left her body.
She had to die to self. And this just hit me in literally the last 10 minutes. And I've been teaching this book, I don't know, about 5 years or so. Read it, I don't remember how many times. And I know nothing about Stroud's quote-unquote religious thinking. I have no idea if he even has a religious thinking. But it seems to me that he's packing some ideas in here. Okay? Because her body is essentially what? It's in the process of dying. If she doesn't come back, it will die, and then she will never go back. Okay? So, she denies herself to go off here. Why? Does she go off to get Bartimaeus to save herself? No. She goes off to get Bartimaeus to do what? To save everybody else. She realizes without Bartimaeus, all commoners, and all magicians even for that matter, they're screwed. Okay? So, he says, those who fail, that is, those who've tried this and fail, they go mad. She says, that's my problem now, that separation, not being me. Okay? That's, when she says that's my problem now, she's not saying you don't need to worry about it. She's saying, that's really my problem. You got to help me with this. Why don't you try making yourself a guise? That is, a form. Well, what's he really mean? This is what? It's a guise. It's a form. C.S. Lewis in, I don't remember what, Mere Christianity or something like that, says that all humans are essentially amphibians. What in the world does he mean? What kind of creature is an amphibian? It lives where? Water and on earth. So how are we amphibians? Because we are creatures of matter, we have to feed this thing, right? But we're also creatures of spirit. We have a soul, or a mind, if you want, a consciousness, if you don't want to use the religious terminology. So, he says, make yourself a body. Give yourself some kind of form. She says, tell those to go away. I don't want to make them angry. He says, we're not angry. Do I seem angry to you? Etc., etc. I don't mean her. That isn't me. It's a memory. I'm all around you. Who's I'm? Bartimaeus. We're all around you. It's not the same as on your side of the gate. There's no difference between the spirits here. In other words, we're all one big happy family. So why is it painful for a spirit to come from here to here? Because it's being separated, pulled from the whole. Okay? So, skip a whole bunch. She makes a form for herself. Page 401, Bartimaeus says, why have you come? Because that's what Ptolemy did. That is, I needed to show you. Okay? He says, I don't want to go back. So she asks him, what do you do here? He says, I don't do anything. It's about simply being, existing. And he kind of says, look around you. And so she does, and notice now, what does she experience? Wow, this is beautiful. This is amazing. Okay? He says, I don't have enough energy to go back. If I go back now, I won't be much more than that pile of slime. Don't worry. We've got Gladstone staff. He says, wait. Nathaniel? He told you his name? Yes. 404, top. I like that. I like that. Okay? But you could have told his enemies his name, Bartimaeus, and you never did. Why didn't you? So, he agrees to come back. Okay? I'm skipping a whole bunch that I don't want to. Bartimaeus says, gate's still open. I can dismiss you. Relax. Work's over. You've done your bit. So, I'm going to send you back. And because the gate's open, Bartimaeus can come back. And notice, if he comes back now, he's not under what? Control. He's not under any kind of bondage. He comes back with free will. Right? So, we begin the next chapter. Ptolemy's in a tight place. And what does he do to Bartimaeus? When?
Before he dies.
Just before his death. Okay? And Stroud gives us that to prepare us. It's to get us ready for what John's going to do, or Nathaniel's going to do. So, he comes back, he finds Kitty's body. She wakes up. He notices her face. It's got lines in it. Her hair has got white streaks. And he says to her, 421. She says to him, everything's changed. He says, not everything. No? Your eyes, they haven't changed at all. You think? Well, they were fine before you started squinting. Take my word for it. Meaning, damn, you've got nice eyes. Kitty, I have to tell you something. And then he goes on and talks about the demons. Okay? So, they get the staff. They've got Bartimaeus. And what do they decide? Okay, so if we combine the power of Bartimaeus with the power of the staff, page 427. Gone, the pain was gone. That was my first sensation. That was all that mattered. My essence surged with a terrible joy, etc., etc. I let out a cry of triumph. My essence, 428, was immersed in bone and blood and little thready things I suppose might have been sinew. This is Bartimaeus' experience of now being united with Mandrake, or with Nathaniel. But notice, it's not a command. It's a choice. Nathaniel invites him in, and he can say yes or no, and he agrees to. And the pain is gone. Okay? And John and Nathaniel says, man, this is amazing. Everything has got more color. And he says she has a glow, etc. Okay? 10 minutes. So, page 434, chapter 33. With sudden clarity, his mind seemed sharper, newly witted. He perceived the jinnee's nature. Notice, does he have any idea about the jinnee's nature before this? No, he doesn't. Understood its ceaseless urge for movement, change, transformation. He sensed how harsh a fate it was for this nature to be forcibly restricted, to be pent up among earthly, solid things. In other words, it's at this point Nathaniel realizes ultimately what? It is wrong to do what magicians have been doing to Ginny for eons. He glimpsed an endless succession of images, memories, imprints stretching back. It gave him a feeling not unlike vertigo. He can see all 7 planes. Okay? So, he gives Kitty the amulet to protect her, and they go off to take on the various, I don't know what to call them, magicians, jinnies, in possessed beings, whatever. Okay? Let's go on to 448, 449. Kitty runs up to a bunch of commoners. She sees them. And she talks to this one. She sees Piper, John's former assistant and such. And she tells Piper and such that, demons are broken loose in London. Young and old, they gaped at her, vulnerable, uncomprehending. Gone was any vestige of magicianly assurance. Sorry, she's talking to all magicians here. And she says, listen and I'll tell you. And one woman says, who the hell are you? And it's Jane Farrar, etc. So they tell her to shut up. So she tells them what's going on. They go to the Pentacles to, start calling up demons and such. And she then tells them what Nathaniel's up to. And Farrar again intervenes. He's going to get the staff, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, she tells them, what do they need to do? Who do they need to protect? Commoners. Okay? And Piper and a few others agree. Jane Farrar, meanwhile, goes to get her night wolves, her secret police and such. And get to 35. We get a description, page 456, of what's the word I need? The kind of give and take in John or in Nathaniel's body and mind between who's got control, okay? And we hear them talk back and forth. 459, talking about the staff. Power of the staff is irresistible. The 7 league boots. Boots carried us more swiftly than any enemy, etc., etc. And they realize now it is at the Glass Palace. Okay, the Glass Palace. If this is the place I'm thinking of, well, let me go back for a moment. In the late 19th century, there was a World's Exhibition fair in London that had this huge glass building constructed for it, okay, which was later destroyed, later dismantled and taken apart. It was the world's largest glass building at that point. Outside London, in a place called Kew Gardens today, there's a huge, can't remember what they call these things. Yeah, it's a botanical garden, but it's all enclosed in glass and it's got metal superstructure and everything. That's essentially where they're at, okay? So, Nathaniel goes and starts talking to Farquhar. And Bartimaeus kind of goes, look who's here. And Farquhar's like, I can't believe this. And Bartimaeus and Nathaniel tell him, yeah, the difference between us and you is Clem Hopkins is essentially dead. Nathaniel is totally still alive and can be in control. Or Bartimaeus can be in control. They're working synergistically. Synergy means working in tandem with, working in total agreement with. Okay? So, Bartimaeus tells Faquarl and Nauta, page 468, I have a way out. I haven't burned my bridges. How so? The magician summoned me in. The magician can dismiss me, but his brain is whole. Bartimaeus says. Haven't damaged it. We work together, Nathaniel says. He's like, I don't understand this. Okay? So we go to Kitty. We see Kitty doing things, and then we go to Nathaniel. Notice in chapter 36, it starts off Kitty and then it goes to Nathaniel. Why? Because we're going to start going back and forth to perspectives, so to speak.
It's really quick, right?
Because it's coming to a quick conclusion. Okay? Nathaniel hears Kitty's voice in page 475. Whenever Bartimaeus speaks, it's in italics. That's Kitty's voice. I know. You think I don't know? It's just you've got all limp and heavy like wet cardboard. Thought you had a seizure. It's not fear. You say, your heart's going like clappers, man. Not shut up. Will you shut up? Kitty, Nathaniel, they speak to each other. Okay. Bartimaeus, 478. Main problem was the way they played off each other. Simply put, their mutual presence spurred each other on. Trapped as I was inside Nathaniel, I could certainly see how much the girl inspired him. Perhaps I can't vouch for Kitty so much, but in my vast experience, strong characters of their sort tend to gravitate together. That is, if they gravitate, they what? They're drawn to each other. He's talking about more than just, warriors in arms here. There's an attraction. Okay? So, what's the plan they come up with? They've got to attack Faquarl. Okay? How have they been using the staff so far?
Shooting power.
Destroying, What else? What did Gladstone put on the staff, so to speak, in the staff?
3 entities.
It's got a bunch of entities, but it's got controls on it.
Oh, yeah. So it's binded to
Exactly. So they've released some of the controls, but they've not been shooting it at quote-unquote full strength or using it at full strength. Okay? Now, what's happening to Nathaniel while all this is going on?
his body's wearing down.
His body's wearing down. He's bleeding from the shoulder wound. Okay? And Nathaniel says, page 487, maximum controllable power. Because they shot Nuda once, didn't do any good. And she says, but it won't do any. He says, yeah, I did maximum. What if we take the controls off? If we take them all off, all its power would be unleashed. I think that might give Nuda pause. Now to pause. Okay? And then he looks around and says, what's this building made of? Glass. Bartimaeus says, and? Well, yeah, iron. Iron and spirits don't mix. So he says, what if we hit him with such a blast that it causes the whole building to explode and fall on him? That might work. Okay? So, Kitty says, how do you break the staff without being harmed? He says, don't worry, we'll take care of it. You get out of here, and once you're far enough away, then we'll do it. Okay? So, Kitty leaves, and we're told, page 488, he looks at Kitty. She'd halted with the amulet outstretched. Her eyes search Nathaniel's face. He sees her aura. See you later, Kitty. See you. You too, Bartimaeus. Kitty's almost at the entrance. She's out. She hears the explosion. She turns around, and she sees it. Okay? Chapter 37, the next day, 9:30 in the morning, 2.5 days later, we have the new government kind of forming. Nauta has been destroyed. The other demons that inhabit humans' bodies have been followed off. And we get to 38. Dying was the simple part. Okay, now, who says that? Because notice, there's no little heading. Dying was the simple part. Okay? So, Bartimaeus and Nathaniel taunt him, and we get a long description, 499, of what's going on. Page 500, and we'll stop. We'll do this part and then we'll stop. Nathaniel says, Bartimaeus, notice it's a thought. Yes, you've been a good servant. I didn't say you're perfect. And what do we see Nathaniel do? We've got to break the staff at the right moment here. You're holding it in check. I can't rely on you for something as important as this. You're bound to mess it up somehow. Best thing is to dismiss you. That'll trigger the staff automatically. That is, he's saying, once I dismiss you and you leave, what's going to happen to the staff? Whatever the controls that are on it, they're going to be released. What's the staff essentially going to do? It's going to blow up. And everybody in it. Okay? Say hello to Kitty for me. I went, staff broke, typical master, right to the end. He didn't give me a chance to get a word in edgeways, which is a pity because at that last moment, I'd have liked to tell him what I thought of him, which was, well, we're never told. Okay? I'll make a couple comments about this on Friday before we get into Lyrial. Try to get about, a third or fourth way into Lyrial. We won't have a quiz until probably Wednesday on Lyrial.